Dumelang Sambanani. Hello, South Africa. A very warm welcome to Expressions. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
And I'm your host, Umkolisi Wagomasango. Now, namhlanje ohlelweni, we are putting a special spotlight on men's mental health. Siyabuza-ke ukuthi, are our men getting enough support? Now, lapha ekhaya njengomuntu wesilisa, are you getting enough support to cushion you against the stride, of course, around pressures, the everyday struggles that you might be facing? Njoba sazi-ke ukuthi, according to our statistics, South Africa has one of the highest suicide rates when compared to the likes of Russia, coming second to Russia. And of course, ngembiko yakwa South African depression and anxiety groups izwile ukuthi men are 4 times likely, Jackie, to commit a suicide when being compared to women. So what do you have to say lapha ekhaya ngale nkulumo esinazo namhlanje? Do participate enkundleni zethu zokuxhumana?
Yes, of course, this is such an important topic for us to have as Expressions, because we know men really struggle to speak up, and there's definitely a culture of silence, and that's what we want to break as Expressions. But I had the opportunity to be on the ground and speak to a very courageous young man by the name of Marvin Adams, who himself is breaking that cycle. Take a look at this. We're on location in Mondio. We're going to be speaking to a young man who has had to deal with mental health issues, but his story is one of bravery and courage. And if you're going through exactly the same thing, we hope his story inspires you. Marvin, a big thank you for being on our show Expressions and sitting down and having this conversation with us. When did you start having your struggle with mental health?
I think with a manic episode. It's an overwhelming feeling of emotions, of your mind and your soul battling each other. It's literally like the devil and the angel on each shoulder, and often the evil voice being the louder voice.
What, according to you, was the cause of your struggle and your challenges with mental health?
For the last 10 years, I've been a journalist, a reporter for all 3 mediums. I've covered a lot of femicide cases, court-related cases. A lot of the times, my triggers would just be rejection from society, and it could be as petty as a song, or it could be as a writing or an article, knowing that I could do it again or edit it, but in my mind it would be amplified.
Marvin, describe for me, what would a bad day look like for you?
Not getting out of bed completely, not being able to do my craft, the ability to write, the ability to interact with my own family. I think this was also one of the biggest frustrations of my family, is the ability to articulate how am I feeling at that point when I don't even know how am I feeling.
Do you think men generally know how to ask and seek out help when they're struggling psychologically or emotionally?
Men were never taught to deal with these sort of things, right? We were not taught to be in touch with our emotions, to express our emotions. We are told that we need to get our stuff together, we need to grow up. We come from homes that are not giving children, and especially black and brown boys, are not given the coping skills to survive. I think for the last few years we've been focusing on the girl child, and I think focusing on the girl child was a cost at the boy child. My thing is that we have so many kids that are dealing with trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, and they're often coming and resulting into substance abuse, violence, these different outcomes that often are violent and criminal in its nature.
Tell us where you are right now. I mean, we know you've had this journey, but how are you doing right now?
I'm in a much better place, but I think it's a daily struggle. But I am leaning on faith, I pray my fears, I pray for my anxiety, I pray for my rejections, I pray for my shame. I surround myself with people that are strong, that are strong believers.
Marvin, can you please just share some words of inspiration and encouragement to maybe whoever at home is watching you right now and saying, I'm going through exactly the same thing?
The things that I've learned is talk. Even if you don't know what to say, talk. So often hearing somebody else's story makes you realize that you're not alone, firstly, and then secondly, that you know what, sometimes your troubles aren't as big that your mind and your brain has made it be.
So after that insightful insert to CSI Bonage no Jacqueline, it's time for us to get straight into the conversation. Nabantu besilisa, of course, in the studio. I have to welcome you, gentlemen, first to Expression. Sbusiso Khumalo is a motivational speaker. Kanye Noputu Sibonele Mbele, who's a psychologist. It's great to have you on Expressions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mafethu, now, this is a very, big issue, and it's seemingly getting bigger and bigger. Ikakhulukazi ngathi abantu besilisa inkinga yekuphi kahle kahle when it comes to mental health. Are we not asking for help, Sibonele? What is the problem?
The problem here is that our problems are stigmatized, so to speak. When a man seeks for help, it's something that is interpreted as a sign of weakness, you understand? So men, as a result, they are not free to talk about their problems, Even when you get bookings for sessions, you find that it's mostly females who are coming for the sessions. So there are these traditional gender stereotypes that we as men grow up with. Men should not cry, all of those things, boys don't cry, and all of those, So they are playing a very huge role in terms of men not being free to talk about their problems.
I think we've seen also, and why we decided to have Lenkulumo is when we've seen what's been happening, the likes of Riky Rik as well, taking their lives. And the thing is, it's a build-up of events. It's not just overnight. Why is it that, I know you've given us some reasons, but what do you feel the main reason is when umuntu wesilisa shows ama signs ukuthi akekho right? When he shows ama signs ukuthi I'm drowning, when he shows ama signs ukuthi guys, I need assistance. Why is it hard for communities and society and everybody in general to take them seriously as abantu besilisa?
Men have always been known to be protectors and providers, So now it sort of does not make a lot of sense for people when the very same person whom they've perceived as a protector for the longest time, having to be the one in sort of help now, So hence even you hear cases whereby when men report maybe abuse at the police stations, they are just being mocked instead of being taken seriously. How can you be raped by a woman and all of those things? How can you be abused by a woman? You understand?
Yeah.
So I think the first thing that comes to a man's mind whenever he thinks about talking about his problems is how people are going
to react, which brings in that important societal element that we're also speaking about. Spoon, a motivational speaker, I want to know from you, what role does the social media play Google wave of suicides that we're seeing in the country?
This is rather counterintuitive because it plays on both instances. We use social media to raise awareness, but there's also an element of self-judgmental when it comes to the area, your social media. If I'm going to post something on social media and I don't get the likes I think I deserve, I tend to judge myself based on that number. So on itself, it builds up to a certain pressure one necessarily goes through. So there also needs to be an awareness based on the social media on how important it is and how detrimental it is. Because I was conditioned to judge men based on their ego, to judge men based on their self-centeredness. So each time I'm going to see Upram posting something, those are the elements I'm waving first before I seek for help, before I seek to help him. So whenever anything happens on social media, people need to be really careful on how to post things on social media. It can be rather detrimental and helpful, but depends on one's intuitive on using social media.
Let's talk about the poll question that we asked on the show namhlanje. You know, Sibuzile, if abantu besilisa do get enough support, do you think they do?
I think they do get enough support. However, there's always room for improvement. It used to be that we would chant that it takes a village to raise a child. Okay. So nowadays it takes a nation to heal a man.
Yeah.
And we need to understand that. Churches need to understand that. The community, family, relationships need to understand. Bramgo, if you're going to storm up and leave, the question is not to say what is going on with him. The question is, am I intuitive enough to hear what you are saying? Because there is an inclination that men don't speak. But I say men communicate. How they communicate, it depends on one to listen. If I see one being downcasted, am I judgmental before being helpful? So the society, so awareness is very important.
Okay, so I'd want for us to delve deeper into this, but only in the next segment when we come back, because Jacqueline is, of course, also on standby for the second segment to continue ngale nkulumo le esinayo la ku-Expressions. So do stay with us.
Hello Expressions, my name is Kathy Marco. I'm your street journalist for the day. The first question is, do you feel like men ask for help enough when it comes to issues concerning their mental health?
If you ask for help or try to reach out, you're looked at as if you're weak, you're incompetent.
We laugh about our problems, and that's one form of a way that we try to address and try to resolve our issues by laughing around them.
The rule is never ask for help, indoda mayifeleng ngaphakathi, which is incorrect because like we're human, so it's very wrong.
What do they feel about like men that commit suicide?
If you bottle things up for too long, eventually the bomb will explode, and that's like suicide is extreme. So the environments around the people around the bomb should be so comfortable that the people are allowed to not explode.
The manliest thing you can do is to talk about your problem. Like you're allowing yourself to feel the emotions, to express how you feel. That is being manly.
Men are committing suicide. People like Patrick Chai or Riky Rik recently, they've committed suicide due to, I believe, mental health, because other factors they are sorted with such. So I feel like it's an issue of men are bending, but the only way they feel like they can ease themselves from that pain is through leaving this world.
Life is a very precious thing. Like I don't care what you're going through, man. Like find it in yourself to get help.
What do you think might be innovative ways to alleviate this very pressing issue?
If we could teach our young boys, us as young gents, young boys, the fathers of tomorrow, the men of tomorrow, Guti, it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel vulnerable, but it's how you pick up yourself that's important.
It starts within. It's like a personal issue. So if as a man you're laughing at men's mental issue, then you're not a man, you're clowning. And as women, if you're laughing also about men's mental issue, what does that make you?
Many people and many men in this country are not aware that certain things are oppressing them, right? Issue of mental health, they need to be aware what depression is, they need to be aware of what anxiety is, because someone might just be feeling anxious, but then they don't understand what's going on with them. So the issue is awareness and basically to break the stereotypes that are happening in South Africa right now.
So those were some of the comments from young people, young men specifically on the ground on this issue around mental health. And of course, that is what we're putting on the spotlight on today's episode. And of course, the poll question is simply this: are we doing enough to provide mental health support to men in South Africa? Make sure you engage with us on our social media pages, on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as Twitter, because we want to hear what you have to say about this very important conversation that we're having today in studio. And of course, I'm not having this conversation by myself. I am joined by Charles Mpepu, who is the chairperson of the Men's Forum, as well as Mfaniseni Mota, who is at least a mental health overcomer. Gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Expressions.
Thank you.
We're going to hit the ground running, and I think for you, Charles, because you work quite closely with men, I mean, the idea around mental health is the idea ukuthi indoda ayikhuluma ufela ngaphakathi type of a thing. I mean, how much do those types of sentiments actually contribute to men's mental health challenges and problems?
This one, Jackie, is contributing a lot in terms of challenges of mental health because, you know, patriarchy of growing up saying men don't cry, and then the young boy, the way they raise the young boys from the background. So it's not equally the way they treat the girl child. So it's contributing a lot in terms of growing up and then in terms of mental health challenges. Because the young boys is like, you know, you can feel pain, you know. Strong, but a young girl, you know, treated very softly. You know, the treatment from the background at home must change also because it needs to be equal.
I want to bring Mfanisen into this. I mean, outside of being an overcomer, I mean, you're a very successful man. You're looking really, really good. And the sentiment still around depression, anxiety, and mental health is that if you're well put together, like Mfanisen right now, there's just no way you can be depressed. I mean, you know, talk to us a little bit about that, about the misconceptions that we have around men's mental health and success.
Okay, I was diagnosed with a condition called exaggerated startled response, which was triggered by a loss of a loved one. So at that time, I was just going through a lot of emotions, and in coming to what you've just said now, we are forced to be strong. I'm a firstborn at home. I mean, those roles play a very pivotal thing in our lives. So I had to enjoy seeing someone being sick, and I was always on a panic mode at that time because I had to see them go through all the emotions. But then at that time, I mean, I'm heading a department in marketing, and you cannot be seen to be weak. I mean, just to give you an example, I could not even tell my people that I was going to a psychiatric hospital because I couldn't take it anymore. So I had to reposition. So when I was telling my people that I've booked myself to a retreat center, because of the stigma that has always been attached to a psychiatric hospital, because once you say you're going to a psychiatric hospital, people think, oh, so you're shan. You know what I'm saying? So I had to package it nicely so it lands nicely on the people, and also it's palatable to them. People don't think nyashan. Whereas everyone goes through all sorts of mental issues, and that is why I was hearing this word for the first time, exaggerated startled response. Wow, it's a big name.
You know, we say men don't speak up. We say they die in silence. But then you have the likes of Riky Rik, HP, who were saying, listen, guys, I'm struggling. I need help. But nobody really took them seriously. Is there even a vocabulary around mindota ati depressed? I mean, how do you even say that in Sizulu? How do you say as a petty person?
We just need to call things as they are. You know, when you can say, gubi, gyapet, when someone says that, it comes from within. Because as compared to depression, I'm depressed. We laugh about these terms in English when someone says, net depression, you know, because you can't really position it or really explain it to someone. But post-traumatic stress disorder starts at a very, very, very young age. To what Charles was saying, that, I mean, how we are socialized is very toxic. When someone says, no, but you have a car, you stay lana, when you can't, you cannot be stressed. And emotions are holistic. It's not just the mentals, but then holistically we need to look at people when they say these things, and when they call things, I mean, when we call things as they are, it then raises an alarm to the next person who is listening. And then we are able to be honest and open enough about these things.
The stigma, the fear around when you do speak out, how do we overcome that, Charles?
We created a space for men to come together and then to share their stories, because every story needs a listener and everyone has a story to tell. But that story needs a listener. That's why we created, we are in partnership with the Institute of Healing Memories, where we take a group of men to a healing memory workshop. They can take 3 days in sharing their stories and understand, because healing is a process. It's not a one-day thing or a 48 hours. It takes process.
And I think this is such an important national conversation. We need to break the silence when it comes to men's mental health issues. You're still watching Expressions. We'll be back right after this.
Siphinde sinibingelele sinamukele, you're still watching Expressions. Indaba inkulu ke namhlanje ohlelweni lapho sibuza khona ukuthi are abantu besilisa getting enough support for their mental health? Gentlemen, we still have you all on the show, and sadly sesiphelelwe isikhathi ke manje. Sibusiso, ngifuna ukwazi kuwena, what do we need to do as imiphakathi to ensure ukuthi we don't have abantu besilisa committing suicide?
I think we need to continue these conversations. The more we continue conversations, the easier we get men to engage.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's very important to understand that we never solve issues from origin, by means of origin, but we always solve issues by means of by means of conduction, that is. So what I mean by that is we need to check ukuthi are they well informed? Are we running enough awareness campaigns out there? Do we have enough Osbonelo or Sbu or Brother Charles who are actively engaged in society? Because one of the striking concerns is that centers where people can get help are costly and far-fetched from Abantu to reach out to. So we are here saying we are available to help, and thank you so much for having this conversation.
He spoke about a very important issue, accessibility. Ukuthi abantu bethu emalokishini bayakwazi uku-accessa ama-institutions that deal ngokwaluleka kwezengqondo. Do they have accessibility? Are we doing enough in terms of indawo abantu abangazi-accessa mangibona ukuthi angikho right?
The most important thing here is to bring awareness to communities, tell people where they can go for help, because that's why Sibanama mental health awareness events in our communities, so that people know who to call should something like that happen. Even through our social media platforms, you understand, we do post in the people, you can go here, you can call this number if you feel you are drowning in depression, you understand. And also the role of educating people, we needed to educate people on these matters as well. People must be well educated, especially looking at our history, especially as African people. Izinto about mental health sometimes they are just being demonized, you understand.
And ngiyazi ngoba ngikhuluma ngamalokishi kuphela nasema rural areas kulena kubo iqobo, far-flung Eastern Cape, senza njani to ensure ukuthi wonke umuntu wesilisa uthola i-access to this?
I think even the government has a role to play in this, in terms of maybe funding programs of mental health, so that even rural, because for instance at the moment it's in health promoters, but I've never heard of mental health promoters, understand? So you can just see the gap. So it's very important to see mental health promoters in Makuma townships or rural areas who can actually make such information accessible and available to rural people.
Usibusiso Khumalo is a motivational speaker, kanye noSibonile Mbele, who's a psychologist. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time with Expressions. I just wish we had more time to talk about this important issue. When we go off air, these conversations continue in Kondenze to Zokuxhumana. So if there's something that you need assistance with or help, do take to our social media platforms. Jackie, I think I must ask you to come in now. I mean, wow.
Powerful.
I've taken in so much today.
Absolutely powerful. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for the power of your story. And I think, like you said, Mko, for the young men out there, please break the cycle. It's important that you understand that you deserve to be supported and protected, irrespective of what you're going through. So thank you so very much for watching.
Go ahead and get help if needs be. Thank you so much for your participation in Till next time.
Adios, muchachos. Bye.